You know what this is like? Look, I was a legal and HR nightmare in our company. You can imagine what it's like for a lot of people. But see, our job is to adapt, to change, or die. That's what we have to do. That's the mantra. If you take nothing from me today, is to know that you need to adapt, to change, or die. Because that's what's going to happen to you. You should be in a business of continual improvement. I mean, I was so glad to see the improvements they're already making to the software that they're using here today, because we need that. We need to be up on it. It's got to be faster. It's got to be quicker. It's got to happen. And by the way, not everything's going to be perfect. In fact, when I stepped into Kodak and I started making the changes, and people said, well, what happens when we make a mistake? I said, well, let me ask you this question. Is anyone going to die? I mean, what's the most that can happen to most of us in our jobs? A paper cut, maybe. Right? Oh, come on. That was freaking funny, too. And I'm not talking about driving change just for change's sake. I mean, who gets into a car and locks in the steering wheel? You're always making adjustments to the gas pedal, to the brake, to the steering wheel, to the windows, to the air conditioner, to the radio, whatever. That's what we should be doing. We should be fighting for continuous improvement no matter what we do. Hook ourselves to the right kind of car, the right kind of engine, and get on with it, but start to make the changes. See, our job is to be agents of change. Leaders, that's what we are. That's what you are. You're bringing forth technology and new things into the company when people don't want to do it. Oh, I like the way it was. We got the system down. How many times have you heard that crap? And that's what our job is. Our job is to be agents of change. And I found out that there's these two kinds of people. There's these clock changers and these lions. Let me talk to you about clock changers. When I first showed up at Kodak, I showed up like a week early before I passed the urine test or anything. I flew to Rochester. And I flew to Rochester, and I'm on the plane next to this like 25-year-old gal, and I'm trying to get her to ask me what I do because I want to tell her, you know. I'm a chief marketing officer of a big Fortune 100 company. And so I'm in this conversation with her, and she's talking about herself, yada, 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 blah, 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 going on and on about herself, wouldn't shut up, you know, blah, 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 blah. Finally, she says, pauses for a minute and says, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm the chief marketing officer for the Eastman Kodak company. And she said, who's that? True story. But when I got to Kodak, it was there a week early, and I decided I was going to put my team through a test. And so I started calling all these meetings with them to find out, you know, what was the mettle of these people? What were they like? And so what I did was I called these meetings, and before I got to the meeting room, I got there early, and there if you put the clock up, there was on the wall was this picture of a clock. It was not a picture of a clock. It was a real clock. That's a picture of a clock. Okay. Follow me, please. All right. And so I got there a little early, and I moved the clock ahead like 15 minutes because I wanted to see what people do when they walked into the room. Yes, I'm sadistic. It's okay, you know. And so what would happen is, I called this meeting with my staff wrote in, and they had some of their people and some of their people, because the more people you have, the more important you are, I guess, evidently in corporate America. So that's what they would do, and they would walk in, and people would start going, they look at the clock and their watch, and look at the clock and their watch. They look to their assistant and say, well, what time you got? And well, the clock's wrong. Mr. Hayzlett, the clock's wrong. I said, oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. And then pretty soon a debate would occur, and so people would start talking about, well, we should get someone to change the clock, or is there someone that's in charge of clocks in the company that we should call? Like there's a freaking clock department, and we should call them, and we should get a hold of them, and we'll have to put the forms, and who's got the form, and it was like, this would go on, and then finally, this went on for like weeks, meeting after meeting, and finally I just said to somebody, well, why doesn't someone do something about it? And this woman got up, she pulled her chair over to the wall, she hiked up her dress, she stood on the chair, and she changed the clocks. That's what we want. We want clock changers. We don't want those other guys, those people that just hang around. We want people who are leaders, people who make things happen. We want leaders in the company. That's what we're trying to drive, and that's what we should be. That's what you are. You're a clock changer. You see a problem, and you're going to fix it. And you grab the tools that are necessary to do it. That's what we want. See, as leaders in a company, whether it's a Fortune 100 company or it's a small business, I'm looking for people who have noticeable assets. I'm looking for people who want to be seam operators, who want to be cheerleaders to reinforce the goals. I want people who want continuous change. And, I want people who bring me solutions, not problems. My entire day is filled with people, even today, with people who want to bring me the problems. Don't bring me the problems. Bring me the solutions. Bring me the solutions, and you're more valuable. And that's what leaders do. So you should be trying some new things, trying out new and different ways. It's not easy. In my book, I talk about the 5 things that drive corporations crazy, that make companies fail. And one of those is creating tension and taking risk. Now, in our companies, our job as leaders is to take everybody from the center of the stage and move them to the edge. That's what we're supposed to do. They have a saying in sports, no pain, no. Why don't we have that in business? And when we take these risks, I tell my folks everywhere, no one's going to die if we make a mistake.